Okay, confession time. Before I arrived, I spent 30 minutes on Google just trying to spell Ait Ben Hato, and Atlas Studios was as that, without sounding like I swallowed a dictionary. But once I got the spelling right, I landed in one of Morocco's coolest movie sets meets history mashups, and trust me, it's worth every mistyped search.
Hello, namaste, and came to beautiful people. Let us explore culture beyond borders, a lot of history beyond borders, because you're watching Isha Beyond Borders.
Now, if you're new to my channel and are wondering where this continuity is coming from, well then, this is the third video of my Moroccan series. The previous video to this is the one where I visited the Tizi and Tichka Pass and also showed you the way they produce the Moroccan argan oil in a little workshop led by a bunch of women. All of this is a part of the Get Your Guide tour, and the details have been shared previously. I'm also going to drop the link in the description again.
Out of all the travel experience, here I am back with my umbrella on sunny days, and we are heading towards Ait Ben Hato, which is a kasbah. So kasbah here means a village, and Ait represents the whole family. So probably we are visiting the family of Ben Hato.
Here's Ait Ben Hato. Yes, I still have to Google how to spell it every time. But trust me, it's worth it. This place sits on a hill beside the Ounila River down the southern Morocco on the edge of high Atlas Mountains. Folks believe it was founded way back in 757 AD by a guy called Ben Hato. His tomb is said to lie somewhere near the base of the hill.
My phone belt is such a relief, I can't tell you. It's keeping my hands free and making it very convenient to walk around. Happy to see I'm quite well prepared compared to the other tourists who are coming here. Always wear comfortable clothes, always wear comfortable shoes, carry sunglasses and an umbrella, carry some water.
Now, most of the buildings you see today are from the 17th century, but the methods and design go back further. Clay, mud brick, wood, basically the materials of the land. Why is it a big deal? Back in the day, we're talking centuries. Ait Ben Hato was a stopover for the trans-Saharan trade route. Caravans loaded with gold, salt, spices, travelers, stories, they all passed through here on the way between Marrakesh and places further south. Because trade was everything, this Ksar, that's fortified village, served more than just homes. It had an inn for travelers, a mosque, granaries, marketplace, even places to store goods safely while caravans rested up. The thick earthen walls and corners, towers weren't just pretty, they were protection. Bandits, harsh weather, you name it. Over time though, its importance declined. New routes, new towns, modern ways. Many locals moved across the river to find newer village with better infrastructure. But the old Ksar didn't completely die. A few families still lived there. Tourists showed up, films showed up, and UNESCO stepped in. In 1987, it got declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which means yes, it's protected and yes, people do care. So when you're walking through this place, remember, you're not just walking through dusty alleys. You're walking through trade, history, architecture, survival, art, all mixed together, shaped by people who knew how to build with what they had. How to get to Ait Ben Hato? Well, we started from Marrakesh and went to Tizi and Tichka, which took roughly about 2 hours. From Tizi and Tichka, it took another 1.5 hours to reach Ait Ben Hato. Officially, entering the village is free. However, you might find unofficial fees requested by the locals, which is completely optional. Also, you can tip a few guides over there who will help you explore the entire village.
We drove through the Atlas Mountains into a Hollywood film set, which is the Ait Ben Hato. Now, super excited to head towards the Ouarzazate and the Atlas Studio, which is again a very well-known film studio. After a rather long trek in the Ait Ben Hato, here at the Hafla restaurant for some vegetarian lunch. So here in Ufla, they have a meal sort of a system, and I have ordered for myself a vegetarian meal, of course. It begins with a vegetable salad, followed by pasta and then a dessert. So here's the salad. Let's dig in. So here's the main dish, which is a Moroccan vegetarian pasta. It does look very appetizing. I love how well it is cooked. Let's get a taste. There seems to be a very crispy, puffy layer on the top, and it's stuffed with vegetables. This is more or less like a curry puff that we have in India. but I just hope that it is flavorful because I don't like bland food. Quite okay. Quite good actually. Just lacks a little bit of spice. Otherwise, refreshing. It's not that sweet also. Nice. It's actually cold. They're not expensive. And it's got a very nice lemon flavored filling.
Welcome to Atlas Studios, aka Morocco's very own movie playground. Located about 5 kilometers outside Ouarzazate, this place is where dreams, dust and drama collide. I'm going to walk you through its sets, secrets and the cinematic magic hiding behind clay walls.
So this is the famous Atlas studio of the Ouarzazate, and there is already some construction work going on for a new movie that's about to begin. The entry tickets for this one is 80 dirhams per person. They also offer a guided tour, and the guide costs around 100 dirhams.
Okay, stop for a second. We are now standing in front of one of the most impressive sets in Atlas Studios, the Egyptian temple, or more precisely the temple facade and gate used in films like Asterix and Obelix, Mission Cleopatra and The Mummy. Looks ancient, right? The columns, the hieroglyphs, the statues, the steps. It feels like we're back in Pharaoh times. But here's the twist. A lot of what you see is trickery and of the most beautiful kind. Those giant stone blocks, painted plaster, dense styrofoam, reinforced behind the scenes with wood and metal supports. Up close, you will see the seams, the scaffolding, not ruins, but the set design elevated to art. This temple has been used in multiple productions. It was for its time the most expensive French production, partly due to this scale. When you walk up to those stairs, past those columns, that's what they were going for. Spectacle. Another cool thing, inside a large sound stage, there's half-size replica of famed Temple of Karnak. It isn't full scale, but accurate enough in detail that you feel the weight of history. It's also used for filming interior temple scenes. Walking through the set, you see the duality, awe plus artifice. Columns tall enough to cast dramatic shadows, carving that mimic ancient craftsmanship, but then patches there where plaster is chipped or wooden supports peeking out. That contrast is what gives it character. It's not perfect authenticity, but it's more dramatic, more cinematic. And imagine this, when these sets were first built, they were built to impress on camera. They had to look glorious under lights, with extras walking upstairs, with costumes and processions. The design must hold up under close-ups and wide shots. So every crack, every detail was considered not just decoration, but an illusion. If you pause and listen to the guide, or me, you can almost hear echoes of ancient chants, crowds, maybe Cleopatra discussing politics, priests performing rituals, though the course is silent now. Now check this out. We're inside the Tibetan house built for Martin Scorsese's Kundun. It's not just a facade. The interior is fully detailed, complete with a massive Buddha statue and even camera dolly tracks still embedded in the floor. The set was designed to replicate Dalai Lama's early life in Tibet, and it does so with impressive authenticity. The walls are adorned with traditional Tibetan motifs, and the architecture reflects the spiritual and cultural essence of the region. Alright, check this out. We're standing in the middle of the Kingdom of Heaven set, and it feels like we've stepped straight into medieval Jerusalem. This fortress was built for Ridley Scott's film, and it's massive, over 28,000 square meters of walls, towers, and battlements. Atlas Studios was founded in 1983 by Mohammed Belghemi, aiming to build a film industry in this desert edge region. Over time, this place earned nicknames like the Hollywood of Morocco, because big names like Gladiator, Kingdom of Heaven, Game of Thrones, The Mummy, and more shot scenes right here. It's not just a set you visit, it's a still breathing studio. Sometimes filmmakers are working as you walk through, just like this one. Here's one of my favorite bits, a replica of an Egyptian temple used in The Mummy. Look up, see the columns? Some of those are thin facades over steel frames built to look solid on camera but light to move. Over there, that arched street, that's been used in multiple films. The same walls have played an ancient city in one shoot, a fantasy town in another. Changing set, dressing, repainting, relighting, voila, a new location. You might even see little tags or initials from crews inside a dark corner, footprints of those who passed here before. And now we're creeping into Atlas Studios' most spine-tingling sight, the prison-like structure that gives off serious horror vibes. Houston shows like Prison Break and Atlantis, the walls here aren't just backdrop. You will see the bad windows, heavy doors, and rooms that feel cold and claustrophobic. And here's a fun detail. Some parts are built from polystyrene, so while it looks solid, up close, there's a telltale illusion built for them. Then just over here, what looks like a coffin or a sarcophagus from the mummy type set, its aged, dusty, gold-painted accents, hieroglyphs, maybe and a lash that still squeaks when you touch it, probably made from plaster wood and decorative paint to look like stone. And this one is the old F-16 jet from the Jewel of the Nile. This isn't live action, it's a showpiece, but man, it packs punch. When you first see it, it looks like it just landed in the desert. Big metal wings, cockpit windows, weathered paint, even though up close you realize it's a prop, possibly hollow, maybe some parts missing or rusting, but that's the charm. So if you walk up to it, take a moment, snap a few shots, look at the rivets, the cockpit where the shadows fall. This jet might not fly anymore, but it still elevates the story of this place. After completing the most cinematic location of this entire trip, which was the Atlas Studios, now I am heading towards Dada's Gorge, and of course we will be exploring the location tomorrow, not on the same day, but we're going to stay in Dada's Gorge. The journey time from Atlas to Dada's Gorge was roughly around 2 hours, and I'm going to be staying in this hotel called Kasbah La Famille Berber, which is a traditional Berber hotel. And of course, this hotel is included in the 4 nights, 5 days trip that I had booked from Get Your Guide. This is the room tour, which to be honest, I was not very happy with. I just wished it was a better accommodation. However, the staff and people were very warm and welcoming. The price cost roughly around 5,000 Indian rupees, which I just checked online for you guys, and it covers your breakfast. Oh, it has a balcony. And the balcony ends where it starts. Super hungry, and coming here to some fresh bread, some salad, vegetable tahini. Really loving the cuisine. Very simple, mild taste, easy on the cut. Perfect. That's all for this episode, my dear friends. With the next one, I'm going to explain to you whether the Dada's Gorge was really worth the visit. I'm going to show you the Todra Gorge. I'm going to take you through my desired stay in Merzouga, and I will tell you what all went wrong. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. I hope you've subscribed to my channel. If not, please do it because it will help me create more amazing content. I just hope you like it. Please drop a comment if you do, and don't forget it to share with your friends. Bye-bye and take care. See you until next time.